Welcome back to Breaking Cycles, the podcast where we challenge old patterns, defy societal norms, and create healthier, more authentic lives in 2025 and beyond. Join your hosts, Erica
and Jesus.
as we dive deep into breaking free of limiting beliefs, building meaningful relationships, and designing lifestyles that truly align with your authentic self. In each episode, we explore topics like ethical non-monogamy, emotional growth, and how to cultivate deeper connections, whether through communication, vulnerability, or simply rethinking what love and intimacy look like. Currently, we're diving into The Ethical Slut by Dossie Easton and Janet Hardy. Love this book. We'll put it here. In this episode, we're discussing Chapter 3, exploring its insights on relationships, consent, and emotional responsibility. Breaking cycles that no longer serve us is key to creating the life we deserve. If you're ready to question the status quo and design a life that's true to who you are, this podcast is for you. Let's break the cycles together.
Woohoo.
Did you like that part?
Yeah, it's
Cool.
good.
I just added it. I'm like, ooh, let's break some cycles together.
Sounds good.
So in the third chapter, this chapter talks about, as an ethical slut, one of the primary commitments we need to do is minimize harm. So for me, that is being fully honest with anyone that I have interactions with, and also hoping that you are also fully honest with anyone you have interactions with as well.
Right.
Like, I want everyone to know, like, hey, this is our situation. This is like what I'm willing to do. This is where I'm at emotionally. This is what I can offer you. This is what we can have together. But also, I have a beautiful husband, or I may have other partners. And I just want everyone to be comfortable and involved, because the last thing I want to do is promise things and not be able to fulfill them.
Right.
So,
Yeah, we do our best not to hurt anyone. Yeah, but again, we have mentioning some things about our personal lives, and you know that I think it was the last episode when we mentioned a little bit, you know, the experiences we had with our families and how we don't, obviously we don't are going to generalize, because there are some people or listeners here that they had a totally healthy like family, and they're just like wondering what is all this about. But again, I think that us, or at least myself, I think I am in some way like hurt by the traditional model of family.
oh yeah,
You know, like we don't I'm hurt. I want to like rewrite my script for what a family is, what love is, but we don't have one, and so we're trying to explore, to try new things. And I personally, that's the problem. I'm here because of trying to follow in the traditional model. I hurt people, and I that's still something I continue dealing with. I you know, like, we'll have those moments where you go to bed and you think about your actions in your past, and some nights are complicated.
Still keeps you up.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to realize that you're also committed to not hurting people. And also give yourself the grace of when you were in those relationships or you were prone to hurting people, it's because you didn't know if there was another way. Like, you didn't have the capacities or the tools maybe to know, like, there is something called ethical non-monogamy.
Right. So part of the ideas of this chapter is, you know, if someone is being coerced, like bullied, blackmailed, manipulated, lied to, you know, which is what I did most of the times, ignore, then, you know, what's happening, it's not consensual, you know,
Right.
And sex and interactions that are consensual, they are ethical.
Right.
And that's it. That's something that must be established. If you have done things, or you are doing things where people, they don't have they don't know the truth, or the full picture, you know, you're manipulating, like making your way out, that's not ethical. and that's what you should reconsider.
Right. And I feel like it doesn't even apply to people who practice ethical non-monogamy, but also it applies to everyone who wants to love or like share connection with anyone in their life, whether it be platonic, emotional, romantic, sexual.
Right.
Because I feel like even just modern dating, like even if you are if you practice monogamy, it happens so often that you're like, well, I went on this date with this person and like I don't really know what I want, but I told them like X, Y, and Z, except like that's kind of what I think I want. Or
yeah, I get, we just assume people understand us.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's part of the ideas of, well, I feel that this book should be read no matter if you're pursuing an ethical non-monogamy. You know, it helps you redefine a lot of things, no matter what's the type of, you know, relationship you want to have. And
it also goes into like a part we'll dive into in a little bit, but being like one's authentic self and realizing that like you can only control your actions and your emotions and like what you put out into the world. And so it's very important to be honest with yourself and really realize like, hey, what do I want in a relationship? What do I want from a romantic partner? What are my boundaries and what are my capacities?
Yeah, like with the idea that the ethical sluts are honest with ourselves and others. That's something that personally it took me a long time to, you know, just to realize. But that's because you know what you do, you know what you have done, and sometimes
and you also know what you want. Like
but sometimes accepting your mistakes is something like complicated to do. And I realized that
it's heavy.
How there are things that happened to me, or that, for example, that I did, specifically things that I did in my past,
that I've done in my past,
that, for example, being in a relationship with someone and then having the opportunity to interact sexually with someone that I don't know either. I had a lot of desire for that person, or, you know, I was like, yeah, you know, my relationship is not great. Fuck it.
Let's just
go for it. And during those years, being just like, no, yeah, you know, I did what I had to do. That was just like pursue my happiness, whatever. But those are the type of like experiences that with the time and when you actually, you know, reflect on them is like, wow, you were a douchebag. and
yeah.
And
I'm so glad you're not that man today.
And
well, I wouldn't be with you, sorry.
No, yeah, I mean, it's clear. And that's it. We need to recognize the difference between the things that we can and should control.
Yeah.
And the things we can't. Because, again, I haven't been, well, I wasn't been. No.
I haven't been. Or I wasn't being.
Yeah, I wasn't honest with myself for like most of my emotional life, you know, and when you recognize, it's hard to recognize when you're doing things wrong. Sorry. That coffee. But again, like there's this idea that you can learn to be a fine, sexy grown up, you know, again.
But also like ethical about it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
and
ethical.
I feel like also beyond this too, there's a lot of people who get into these long-term relationships, and at first it's all like butterflies and rainbows and you're in this honeymoon stage, but maybe later on you realize, hey, I really love this person, but you know, I have interest to keep exploring with different types of people, or like, I don't know, I want to be able to have opportunities and have a life that's so dynamic that maybe I'm not with this person all the time.
Right.
Whether that be like physically, sexually, emotionally, like, you know, I think a lot of relationships end up failing because people change, and either they adapt to their partner's change. But they are lacking something, like they're not out on their own path, or they're not, you know, promised to themselves in a way that keeps them true to who they are. Also, it starts talking about in this chapter too that being a slut also doesn't mean acting on every impulse without considering others.
Right.
It requires a lot of thoughtful consent and a lot of integrity. which I think kind of goes into my next point, because I know a lot of my friends who practice monogamy, when I tell them about ethical non-monogamy or how Jesus and I are open and we've had these experiences and it works for us, they're always like, okay, so you guys just go around and like, sleep with everyone? Like, it's this assumption that because we practice ethical non-monogamy, anything out there that moves that we have like any interest in, we just go and screw.
Fuck it. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
And then maybe...
Yeah. We're going to edit that. Yeah.
You're good, baby. But I'm like, and for me, it's the complete opposite. Like, I'm so much more cautious and conscious of the interactions I have because I want everyone to be like so informed, and there's so much integrity in doing the things that I want to do that, yeah, there's a lot of conversations, a lot of like, hey, this is what I'm at. This is what I can give you, like I said before. And I feel like it's so much more transparent.
Yeah, but I feel that's precisely personally my biggest challenge, which I don't know if it's okay. We're already connecting with what I consider is the next part of the chapter, when you need to rethink sex, because what you just mentioned is, for example, some of the main differences and challenges that we as a couple have faced, where sex, me personally as a guy, I was experiencing it in a very just casual way, like one night stand, where I have a master's degree on that. On those.
You have a master's degree in one night stands.
Like, and honestly, I used to, or I feel like I enjoyed them like so much.
I mean, as long as, but the thing is that's not bad. I feel like as long as there was integrity, because I think being a slut isn't about
right.
Being a slut isn't about impulsiveness. It's about integrity. So as long as it's like, hey, you know what? Let's go have fun for a night.
Yeah, but again, what I'm trying to say is like our challenge it has been that, because like when you try to be conscious and involve everyone's emotions, every person's emotions, and this, like, now I cannot just say like, well, okay, I want to do this, and well, that's it,
So you enjoyed them, but maybe the next day you like felt bad because you weren't fully honest?
No. That I feel I would like to continue have some of those, but in the way that we have like manage the openness of our relationship is something that it's now very complicated to do it, because I cannot just like go out one night and come back to the house and tell you, hey, guess what? Because that's something that I'm not pursuing right now, because I feel that in general, in my life, even when it's something that I consider I enjoy, or I have some sort of skill to get into those,
you have a skill to have one night stands.
at the end, it's true that most of the times the emotion the next day is not incredible,
right?
So and that's how I hurt people, like a lot. So it's this balance again that for me has been one of the biggest challenges to rethink sex, like, because that's not something that you can just like go for it with just because you want it and you need to get it. Just like, hey, like, learning that if you take the time, if you make it enjoyable for everyone, at the end is much more enjoyable, and you can get
I hope you're like conscious of wanting an enjoyable experience to happen for everyone.
It's just that it's don't being that selfish with it. It's
not
like
being that selfish.
Not being
that selfish. That
selfish, thinking like, the idea is to not only care about my pleasure, but
but like also caring for the other person. Totally.
Yeah, everyone emotionally involved.
I feel like when you just mentioned the whole like one night stands, or maybe like right now you're not at that point, but like, I have to be honest, I feel like I fantasize about this life where you and I have like a bigger space and we have like 2 bedrooms, maybe three
Right.
bedrooms. And like I can just go to bed early and like you can bring someone home and in the morning we can all make pancakes together or like have a
Yeah.
cup of coffee.
Like
Like to me, that sounds so cool to be like, hey, like you have your life, I have my life, but we also coexist together and share
right.
like a life
Which
together.
like
That
if
sounds so
just to
beautiful.
clarify, that's something that hasn't happened, and we don't feel we are in the position right now to do it, but we think about it. We dream.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I
No,
can say
but we
dream.
talk about it. Like I think that would be like a really cool thing.
Yeah.
Which kind of goes into jealousy, which they also kind of talk about in this chapter. It talks about like ethical sluts take responsibility for their feelings, like jealousy or insecurity, without blaming others. And I really wanted to talk about this point in the book because I think it's really important. It says like instead of like being like jealous and insecure and blaming you, you ask for support. You ask for the support to feel cared and safe.
Mhm.
And I thought that was so beautiful because like imagine if in every relationship when someone like felt like jealous and like these ugly vibes or emotions, if they just went to their partner for support to be like, hey, I'm feeling like this. Like, can you like can we have some care and like talk about this? I feel like relationships would flourish. But a lot of the times when people get jealous, it's so rooted in anger and like discouragement and like scarcity that like it takes a long time to like have resolution. It's like maybe eventually you end up talking about, okay, hey, why did you feel like that way? But a lot of people will be like, well, you made me feel this way because I saw you with this girl. I saw that text and like that, like you're hurting me. But instead of coming to your partner and just being like, hey, I feel weird. Like I feel ugly on the inside or I'm feeling insecure. Can we talk about this? Like, what a beautiful way to dissect your emotions with your partner.
Right. Like I feel this episode uh, is very challenging in many ways, where like personally you need to question many of those behaviors
Yeah.
when you're starting to feel insecure and jealous. Like you just mentioned, most of the time the reaction as a partner is like, hey, I feel like this, so whatever you're doing you need to stop doing it because you're making me feel like
Which we'll
like
also
that.
get into in the book of like, of what, how do I say this? Like, what you're responsible for. Like, it talks about this. Like,
Right.
you're not responsible for someone else's emotions. You're only
Right.
responsible for.
So for years, and I mean we have had a lot of fights over this,
Yeah.
and discussions about how exactly you just said it, and that is very easy to say about like, hey,
Mhm.
and just to make I well, now I laugh, but I remember when we have these disagreements, it's very, it's frustrating because, for example, I really struggle with the idea of the invalidation, like when you feel that I invalidate your emotions
Right.
just because I tell you like whatever you're feeling is your responsibility and not mine, something
Yeah.
like that. And I mean it's a real challenge there, because and how like how much your partner should be like involved
And your like emotional
in your
well-being.
emotional well-being, or the responsibility of like saying
Yeah.
like, yeah, I know that my emotions are my responsibility, but we're living together, we have an emotional
Mhm.
bond, you need to.
But I think that's where like you set boundaries where if like an incident happens, you can be like, hey, like I know myself emotionally. And if X, Y, and Z happens, it's very likely I'm going to react in these ways. Maybe those reactions also need working on. Like maybe I also need to like better myself. But there's like this threshold that like if you do X, Y, and Z to me, I'm gone. But I
Right.
think a lot of the times people fall in love. And like our last episode, we talked about how love conquers all. And that's a myth.
Mhm.
Because if you're being treated badly or poorly by someone, the love is like almost just diluting your growth to move on, or like put like boundaries and respect yourself, if that makes sense.
Right.
And I think at the end of the day, it's like relationships aren't one size fits all. Like if you could throw out the rules and create your own relationship script, what would it be? Right?
Right.
So anyways, which leads us into our second
Yeah, the idea of rethinking sex and
segment.
And well, I was kind of getting ahead with the when I mentioned how is one of what I consider the main challenge for me. But wait, yeah, trying to come back to this, like for example, in this section, the authors try to promote the idea that sex is an idea of something set aside. A discrete activity like driving a car just doesn't hold up very well. And I don't know, this idea that the erotic, yeah, 1, 2, 3. They also mention or they think that erotic energy is everywhere, that sex is part of everything, and this is something that
I've never thought of until I read this chapter either.
I always thought about how I think I for example, I think this is depends on what are you attracted to. But I see women, and even doesn't necessarily mean that I have to like I need to want something with them. But I think about sexual, like at some point feel like how do you say, like these thoughts, oh my god, intrusive thoughts. But it's like, no, I mean, I just like to think about it. I just like to.
Yeah, I mean, I think but I think that's also what sets like the modern man apart from like cavemen. It's like, yeah, you have these intrusive thoughts of just like sex or like desire, but because we're like
That doesn't mean that you need to study at it. Or
you're like, oh my god, I'll do anything to have sex, or like just be very like animalistic about it and not value those people, which go back to what we were just talking about of having integrity. And you can still have those connections, but to value them and also really care about the person and how they're enjoying their experience. Very important.
Yeah, which also I feel is part of like accepting this idea is the way that you can start to normalize it, because I feel that the idea of sex, at least in my culture, it's like no, like stop talking.
I mean, same thing. Like I feel
again,
like,
being promiscuous.
I feel like that's just the Western world, though. Like sex is so objectified and it's a commodity that people are like, oh my gosh, like you see like sex sales pretty much, how it's just like a commodity in the United States. And it blew my mind because we went to Germany last fall and we were at the Baltic Sea on the beach, and there's just these nude beaches and they have families with children and grandparents and they're all nude just hanging out, and there's nothing sexual about it. It's so normalized. And I feel like here in the States, like one time I saw my like dad or my brother in a towel and they were like, like screamed and like ran away. Cause like, God forbid, like and just that whole like culture of it being like, so like something so bad and like sinful, just like nudity blows my mind.
I remember once at I don't know if it could be called a party, just like small reunion with some friends. This guy that had a daughter, but at that moment was like a little girl, little baby, but no, like bigger, well, older.
Toddler,
yeah, a toddler.
Okay.
And he mentioned something like, oh yeah, because when I take shower with my daughter and stuff, but he was like so casual about it.
Yeah.
And back in the day, and this is something that happened like 10 years ago. I remember the reaction of many of the people present at that moment, including me. I was kind of like, what do you mean? Like you just
shower with your little girl?
Yeah, because I remember that's something that my dad used to do with me, but my mom used to take showers with my sister, not like this idea of the opposite sex, which again now we are talking about exactly that, how we need to normalize. But 10 years ago for me that was kind of shocking.
Yeah.
Like
Well, I bet for a
wait.
lot of people, it's still shocking today.
Yeah, to do that, which again, the idea of normalized bodies is something that, at least in the Mexican culture, like it's like, come on, like we people sometimes go to the sea and they're all to the beach and they're all dressed
All
up,
dressed up.
and I don't want to be insensitive to understanding that there are like levels of.
Like body dysmorphia, maybe, or
I think it's more just what you learned.
Sure.
Maybe nobody
right. But you
like,
just feel like there's not a space for you to be expressive
and
without being
and
judged.
society is not like making any difference to make you feel better about it. You know, like
Yeah, that is so crazy. Like you've mentioned, you've gone to Brazil before. Like Jesus has traveled the world, and he just remembers like.
But
People
that
in
Brazil
like,
is
all
an
body
incredible-
types.
Yeah,
People are just letting it hang out.
doesn't matter
it's
your
just
shape, size, and you're just like in the tiniest swimming suit like that you could find.
Find, yeah.
And it's incredible. I feel that's obviously like every country, like the feminist like movement in Brazil is also very strong, because obviously like with the carnival and all this, like obviously you have, as every society you can have your problems, you know, but
Sure.
to normalize the body just to see some skin, I think is something that is so nice, because I feel then in other cultures where you are so limited, all these other memes and stuff, or I don't know, Muslim cultures where you can see the heel of a woman and everyone is like super excited. It's like, again, we are like sexualizing things that should be completely
Just
normal. Like that is just the skin of your body, you know? And
yeah, it's like we were born naked.
Exactly. And
yeah, like going back to the whole thing with like parents bathing with their kids, I think that's just beautiful. It's like connective in like the way of it's just like another task, like feeding your kid. You have to like give them food or go on walks with them. Like
right.
the same thing is like I took showers with my mom. Honestly, I'd probably still take a shower with my mom to this day. My mom's my mom's a badass, but obviously never with my dad or like never with my brothers. Just
But that's the thing. Like at what point you start like sexualize people, you know, or I don't know. I don't know if I have the. I just dropped the question that I don't know if I have the information to answer it.
You know, that's a really good question though, because it's like almost.
At what point is okay to take shower with your mom? Or
like at one point, like at what point does it get weird? Or like
yeah.
And like not even having showers, but like I feel like even with my mom as an adult, like we, get dressed together. She'll hop out of the shower. I'll be doing my makeup or vice versa. And it's just so
like,
normalized.
Assuming like based on what we're saying, technically you should be able to do it in the same way you go to nude beach.
Yeah.
And just in the same way, like you can have friends and just simply get naked. You should be able to.
Right, because it's like not like the sexualization of.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it's a challenge. I don't know.
But like, for example, if one day like we have children, I would love like there's some hot springs here in Colorado that are clothing optional, or also like beaches in Mexico or Hawaii when we were in Hawaii. And like for me, I'm like, yeah, that'd be so cool to just like go to the beach and everyone just like hang out like without having swimsuits. Like swimming naked is one of the best feelings in the entire world.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. I feel like I saw this in Europe and I was like, how cool. It's just normal. And there's nothing weird about it. And here we're, even the fact that you and I like have to challenge and think about like, okay, well, what year or what age does it make it sexual? Yeah. That in itself is like, okay, we definitely need to work on.
Yeah, because and this section of the episode exactly talk about according to the authors, this erotic energy and how it's everywhere in our daily lives in the most unexpected moments too.
Right.
And how the more you learn about sex, the harder it is to define. Like the more you want to actually explain it, define it, like you find all these differences in how they try to motivate you to, hey, whatever sex is for you,
Yeah, go for it.
like that's fine. And obviously here a lot of cultural, religious, like simple, like social influences are going to be present, but the idea of, like, even the authors at some point during the book, they say, like, right now we're talking about sex, and according to them, if you are if you are reading to them or you're listening to us that we're talking about it, so that we are having sex.
Yeah, you can
like,
technically be having sex. Yeah, I mean, it's like it manifests and like intimacy can manifest in all types of ways. And like you said, it's not just like driving a car, it's like a thread woven into our lives. Like it's constantly there. And it's like, have you ever had a conversation with someone and it felt so like rich and erotic that you're like, wow, that was even better than like even the act. And it's the whole notion that sex doesn't just start and end in the bedroom.
Yeah, I think it's this whole idea of sex must be related to nudity or penetration, you know, right? Yeah. And this like triangle, the nudity, penetration, sex is like, that is sex. And how, no, like you can take elements out of it.
Well, like I even tell Jesus, I'm like, hey, foreplay doesn't just start in the bedroom. Like foreplay for me is like, like you wake up in the morning, you make my coffee, you give me like a kiss on the forehead, we have a nice conversation, we like text each other funny things during the day, we come home, we like share about our day, have dinner, like cuddle, like all of that to me is foreplay, which honestly is kind of sex.
My foreplay is like started in the morning.
No, for real. And it might go on for like a few days before we actually are naked in the bedroom. Like we're both busy beings, but
so this section pretty much says that like you define sex by whatever you feel in it.
That is such like an expansive view.
Right.
But it's inspiring because it makes you really think like, okay, my intimacy, like it values at all levels. If you know what I mean, like me being intimate doesn't have value unless I'm naked. It's kind of like what a lot of people think, or unless like I'm being, you know, on a bed with someone. But no, it's like your intimacy is valued in every facet of connection with someone, as long as you deem it like that. I mean, I think this whole book really prefaces you creating your own story and realizing, you know, what works for you. What does sex mean to you? What does connection look like?
Yeah. So think about it. Like what is actually having sex for you, to have sex for you, and talk about this with your friend, with your partner, actually, because maybe you will experience some surprises.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
And then we have
our next segment, or the next part of the book. It's denial versus fulfillment.
Yes. Here I quote the authors. They said, "We believe that shame-free access to all sorts of consensual sex is extremely nice for the world in which we all live."
Definitely. I feel like our culture often shames pleasure and they label it as indulgent or sinful. And I feel like this is a very puritanical mindset. And this mindset just like leads to guilt, shame, and often people like withholding themselves or not like fully experiencing the life that they want.
Yeah, like I definitely experienced a lot of
shame.
This shame.
Like,
and our culture places a high value on self-denial. You know, if at some point what I experienced, like whatever actions I was committing in the past, in hurting people, like for some reason I have to, self-denial, not accepting them, you know, but because all too often those who unapologetically seek pleasure in their free time are seen as immature, disgusting, or even sinful.
Yeah.
Which is like what I was doing.
But I feel like that's purity culture. That's like, like me growing up Mormon, even like now, I'm 27 years old. I'll be 28 this year. And there's times where I'll go out with someone, I have an amazing night, like I'm really vibing with them, but I'm even like, okay, I really want to explore something with you, but I feel like I'm not like I'd be dirty if I did so. Or like this like
Right.
shame of being like, oh, but like you're married, or like maybe you shouldn't do that. Even though I have a partner that tells me like, babe, go for it.
Right.
There's this shame and like heaviness over me. And like sometimes I just come home and whack off and think about it. And I was like, damn it, I wish it would have happened.
Right.
But I think it's something I'm getting better at, like as like we explore and have more experiences, which feels really good.
Which I feel this is also a place where alcohol plays a big role.
Yeah, this is such a delicate topic.
I mean, it's definitely
interesting.
And we're not planning to talk a lot of time here again because the last episode was very long, boring. Well, it was boring. No
we
one's
have like
listened
5
to us.
views on it.
Well, on mine, on the Spanish, I have 0 views. So,
We're
but
starting.
yeah. But the thing is, how alcohol ends up being the way to get sex, because it's the only way. All these limitations that we're explaining,
like your boundaries,
you simply take them.
But I also feel like, as nice as it's probably like a good buffer for you to explore, if you can not have to drink alcohol and still have those experiences because you've worked so much on yourself, where you can like overcome those emotions if they do come up, like that's what I'm working towards. Like,
yeah, but that's the problem, that sometimes when you drink, you're not also the smartest, like,
right?
wisest.
But I feel like in the same way we talked about having integrity within your interactions, I think there's this really fine threshold where like you have a couple of drinks in you or whatever, and you have like this nice buzz going on, and you can still go enjoy the interaction and like be fully present, versus a lot of people who it's like the end of the night, they're like shit-faced, we're at a club, and they're like, yeah, whatever, let's just go have sex, which I think is completely valid. But I think you can benefit so much more from the situation and from the experience if you're a little bit more conscious of like, hey, this is who I am as a person, this is what I can offer. But also at the same time, maybe you've already thought through these things and you're like, I'm cool just like having fun with whoever, as long as it's consensual and safe and everyone's cool with it. And I can get shit-faced drunk. But I feel like for myself, that's not on the table.
No, I'm not saying that I'm not judging of or trying to say that whoever is having sex while they're drunk or shit-faced like are doing something wrong. Like,
well, because sometimes that's like the fun sex.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is like when you are not part of this lifestyle and you think like so many of the things are saying right now are wrong, sometimes drunk, you don't care. Or people that they don't practice this life, they don't care, so that's what I'm trying to say. It's like how many of these social walls,
right,
you kind of forget about them when you're drunk. When you're drunk. And that
but I think that also, like in the book, they talk about pleasure is a worthy goal. Like sex is seen in society as like, well, we use sex to like, make babies and have connection and like build these bonds.
You don't need a reason.
But you don't need a reason. And I think those are all very valid things. Like I know like within our marriage, when we have intimacy, I feel like it really creates this stronger bond or this connection.
Right.
Like I love that part of our marriage, but I also, and like same thing, obviously people are having sex to create babies, which is also so beautiful and so valid, but it's also like doesn't have to be the only goal. Like pleasure is a worthy goal, which I really like. Like sex doesn't need to be justified by side benefits like stress relief or relationship strengthening. Those are bonuses, but not the primary purpose.
Right. Whenever like in all the negative sides of sex that people are trying to use in order to don't get into this type of lifestyle, to not get into this type of life, like STDs, or unwanted pregnancies, raping, and so on. Again, obviously we understand there are risks that you need to be, careful.
But I think that's just someone like abusing the situation.
What do you mean?
Like abusing the situation or abusing someone. like when those things happen, when there is like abuse or rape
Right.
or assault, it's abuse. And,
Yeah.
but I feel like in the same way, you can abuse any substance. You can abuse chocolate, food,
Oh,
sugar,
right.
exercise, even.
Yeah.
Like it's, I feel like
There's an
abuse
excess on
stems from the
everything,
motivation of the abuser, not the thing itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, part of when trying to come, if we come back a little bit with the idea of rethinking sex and the whole process of this chapter, and that tries to take you to the idea that there's this trap of try to rationalize sex, because the fact that there's something as physical, or well, not the physical, like clear, like, I don't know, organs, sexual organs, and there are penises, there are vaginas, and they want to put everything in this like box that is here, goes there, and you use it for what it is.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's sex and nothing else. So again, we go again through the whole idea of like sex is not precisely just that. It's just not nudity. It's just not penetration. And then the whole idea of sex is what you just said, like pleasure. Like even if you try to say like, no, but sex, some people try to promote the idea of like, no, sex is good for, releasing physical tension, like even for women relieving menstrual cramps and stuff,
that
improving mental health. And these can be like advantages, but you don't need to have sex for that,
no, absolutely. And I think going back to what you were saying, there's this quote in the book that I read like 4 times because I absolutely love. It's so beautiful. It says, "We believe it's okay to have sex with anybody you love, and we believe in loving everybody." Like that is so powerful.
Right. Can you repeat it?
It says, "We believe it's okay to have sex with anybody you love, and we believe in loving everybody."
Oh, right.
Beautiful.
Right. And that's what we're trying to do. I mean, and I don't know if here people will try to, I don't know if like concepts like pansexual it's part of this.
I also think we need to be a little bit more inclusive with the language we're using, because it's like he, her, them. And also, not everyone just has a penis or a vagina. There might be people who have both, or one's more prominent.
Yeah, like, I mean, I'm not trying to...
I'm just saying this is like a note for our audience. I think we need to be better at...
Yeah, definitely. I'm not used to all of that. I'm still, as you can hear, I'm still learning English. So now I need to relearn all that inclusive.
But I feel like for me, I've lived in this bubble, and like I'm very aware that I need to go out and know people who are different than me and have different lives, and to fully understand like how people are and why they are, like why they choose to be the way they are, regardless if like they're straight, pansexual, transgender.
No, and again, I think it's the same trap of rationalized sex. Again, I feel that like there's no just two sides, two colors.
Totally, it's not black and white. We are
much wider.
So colorful. Like that's the thing that really pisses me off sometimes when people are like, no, it's black and white, like man and woman. Like how boring. Like there's so many flavors. People are so colorful. Humanity has gone through so much shit. Why are we at a stage where people just can't be who they want to be regardless, and we can all just like respect and love each other?
And that's what I'm trying to
like
do
my perfect
here.
world.
Like, because I feel that society already is trying to accept all these ideas. And for them, for some reason, it's also too complex or too complicated to handle that. Yeah, not only there are differences differences in genders and all the variations you can find. Now, actually, everyone can do whatever they want with whoever they want, and I think, yeah, for some very traditional people, that must be too complicated. Like, to it's like, okay, so you're saying that there's not only woman and men,
Right, because it's so
but
much.
also you can involve more than one, more than two.
Because I think it's easier to just abide by these small social strong constructs and conform, to be like,
and again,
this is so much easier
we
to
are not
fathom and
judging.
understand.
I mean, you can still have that type of life if you want, if that suits you.
But I also challenge you to think outside of your beliefs, think outside of your religion,
Well, yeah,
your culture.
That's something you must do no matter what, right?
Because a lot of the things that question or scare you isn't something new. Like, a lot of those things have been around since humanity has been around.
Right.
So question it. Which leads to our next segment. You are already whore.
You're already a whore.
A whore. You are
Whore.
already a whore. If you're
Whore.
watching this, probably.
You
Even if it's
are
only in your
already a
head.
whore. Yeah. And yeah, this is some okay. Well, let's just talk
we talked about this. I was speaking about it a little bit at the beginning of the podcast, but it's the foundation that sexual fulfillment is within yourself. No one else completes you, and the relationship that you choose to explore only enhances you, like your wholeness, rather than it feeling a void. Like it overflows your cup. Like your cup's already full.
And this is a delicate for me part of the chapter and even the whole book, because I think this is where things like therapy deserve deeper discussion.
Yeah.
Because that same concept that you just mentioned can be applied to pretty much everything in your life, like emotionally, sexually. You must be fulfilled. Like you don't need to add anything to your life, to be better. Which again is also challenging for me. I still kind of have that flag of thinking that I'm better with you,
but I think it's also, again, maybe your cup's overflowing with me. But like we've talked about this, and it's like Jesus and I have had moments where things are tense, and we've even discussed like, okay, if we were to go our own ways right now, could we? And the answer is always yeah. Like that's the thing though.
Actually, somehow sounds easier. Sometimes
it does sound easier and attractive, of being like, okay, well, I mean, like, I feel like we're in the 21st century. Myself as a woman, I can pay my own bills. I can go on vacations, like go out to dates with whoever. But at the end of the day, for me, it's like, I think it's the companionship that is so beautiful that we've built.
Right.
And just being able to like rely on someone and just have that friendship foremost. Like, I feel like for you, like for our relationship, you're my best friend. Like, I am so grateful I get to come home and like just have this companionship, or like share meals together, and like we know almost everything about each other, and that is so just, it's beautiful to share that.
Which is part of the things that motivated me to try this type of relationships, to be with someone that actually accepts me.
Yeah.
Because like, you don't know the amount of times that I've been in a relationship with, just to mention the idea of me being like, to have cheated on past relationship is like, so you're going to do the same thing to me, like there's no way you can improve, or like, I don't want to be with you.
And I just saw this, like, when I met you and I heard your story. Well, I met Jesus like almost seven years ago.
Wow.
Almost 8. Wait, it was 2019 or 2018?
Of ending.
Okay, so yeah, almost 7 years ago. But I remember like when we had reconnected a few years later, and I had heard like your story, and you were so open and honest with me. I just like saw so much potential, where I'm like, okay, but like, you are such a great human, and you're so loving and so willing to give and serve and be connective and sweet and honest, and you're emotionally intelligent. What if we were in a relationship where we both wanted to explore. And I just saw you as like, okay, there's some serious potential here. But I think the same thing as myself. Like in my past relationships, I never cheated, but I sure thought about it a lot. Like there was definitely times I'd go out with friends, or even like I was bartending and in college, there'd be like really cute people that I wanted to go explore with, but I felt so limited. And I almost felt guilty because I was thinking about wanting to have relationships or even, sexual intimacy with someone else other than my primary partner or my only partner, because I was monogamish.
Right.
Because clearly I was thinking about these things. And so when I met you, I'm like, yeah, this could work. Let's talk. And then we kept talking and I'm like, cool. I think we can find an agreement.
Right. Like this idea that the only thing in this world that you can control is yourself, like your own reactions, desires, and behaviors.
Yeah.
And that's why I was like mentioning therapy. Or maybe you don't need therapy if you consider you are already very
No, I
well
think everyone needs therapy though. It's some like even if you had like the most healthy upbringing, like I think there's some things that are so important to speak with a professional about, because they'll give you the tools and they have the experience and studying or the studies and knowledge to help you like better dissect it. And I think even if you feel like you don't have a lot of things wrong with you, but you have a goals in mind or things you want to work towards, just having someone, it's like almost a mentor to have a therapist to hold you accountable, to be like, hey, what are you thinking about like these thoughts? Like, what are you doing to pursue this relationship or this job? Like, and I feel like therapy and also self-awareness, if therapy is off the table for you, those are both keys.
Yeah, I think we need to keep the options like open, because I mean I'm going to therapy, but some of my therapeutical processes weren't like nice. Some therapists aren't good, and it also is pretty easy to just be, how to say, defraudado, defrauded by a therapist, because you go there with all your intentions, but some people maybe just simply don't connect with you.
But I guess in the same way we say therapy, like I think you can also do things that are therapeutical, like
like the therapeutical process,
because also like even yoga, mindfulness, meditation, or maybe even like CrossFit,
whatever allows you to be introspective
and like dissect, and like I said, the self-assessment, to be like, hey, where am I at? What do I need? Like,
what do I want?
I think like so many people get caught up and they're in a relationship and they're like, well, it's okay, maybe when the next best thing comes around, I'll readjust.
Or maybe whatever you think you need or whatever you think you want is
changes.
Like, no, it's like, why do you think you want that? What do you think you need?
Oh yeah, like all the ideas.
Like, do you really want that, or you were taught to want that? And yeah, that's what takes you here at some point.
Yeah, definitely. Which I also think people operate from a mindset of scarcity, feeling that love or attention is limited. That's what they say in the book. This belief can lead to jealousy and possessiveness. And like in this section too, the authors talk about the concept of a starvation economy, which I think is kind of like a scarce.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. It's like the whole scarcity mindset of maybe people who lacked emotion or affection as a children feel like they have to fight for it as adults.
Right.
And so if their partner goes off and gives it to someone else, they feel like maybe there's nothing left for them.
Right.
And that's like something I really wanted to talk about too, because I feel like love is abundant. Like once you just go out and have a connection with someone else, it doesn't mean that it's gone. Like you can't go home and share it with another partner.
So yeah, this idea that our capacities for love, intimacy, and connections are finite, like that there's never enough to go around. And this one shocked me, because that if you give some to one person, you must be taking some away from another.
Yeah. Like, but then on the other hand, some of us were raised with abundance where love felt unlimited. And I feel like for me, this chapter makes me reflect on how my upbringing has shaped my beliefs about love and freedom. Because like I feel like when we first started getting together, I was definitely jealous because I wanted like your full undivided attention. But like now that we've spent a lot of time together, like a few years,
go away.
like go away. But honestly, it's like,
leave me alone.
I also really enjoy, we both really value our personal space of being able to like explore, create, have connections with other people. And I think when you can have a connection or go explore with someone else, for me, I'm like excited. Like for me, I feel like, again, the whole like analogy of overflowing your cup, that's how I feel. I feel like you come home and you're more like experienced, or you had more experiences, therefore you have like a broader view on the world, and I feel like I just get a benefit from that.
Right, like that concept stood out for me. I don't know whether the authors intended it in its way or not, but it's like that we love, that the way we love may be directly related to the way we were loved, especially like in childhood.
What the book talks about.
And what you just mentioned about this starvation economy, where children who didn't receive enough affection or attention, who grew up believing love is scarce and must be fought for, sometimes in cutthroat competitions with their siblings. That sounds crazy, but I don't know about you. I wanted to ask you because I don't feel I experienced that.
I feel like I did. Well, like my parents separated when I was about 9-10 years old, and I'm the only girl. I have 2 brothers. And I feel like for me, I just automatically became like another mom to like my brothers. My older brother has psychosis. My younger brother is so sweet, but I think he got most of the attention. Like my older brother and I hate to say this, but I feel like we were kind of forgotten about.
Wow.
And maybe my little brother feels the same way too, because like, you know, we were only with my dad like every other weekend. Maybe, I mean, there was even like a month or 2 where I maybe wouldn't see him because our schedules didn't align, and sometimes he would like go out of state. But I feel like with not having a mom home, because my mom was working a lot trying to support us. Yeah, like any like amount of attention, like I honestly think myself, I just stopped fighting for it. Like all the attention I wanted and I got was honestly from like maybe teachers at school, or even maybe boys that I was like dating at the time. But like I have to say, like 10 to like 17, I was a very lonely kid. Like I would lock myself in my room, and sometimes people wouldn't come and check on me for like 2 days. Like I didn't go to school at all during high school. Like also my family moved a lot because of the divorce and my mom getting new jobs and whatnot. And so like I went to 3 different middle schools and 3 different high schools.
Right.
And so like I remember when I had moved to like my second to last high school, I just stopped going. Like I had actually enrolled myself for school and put my name as my mom's, or my phone number is my mom's emergency contact. So I would just call school all the time and check myself out. But when I went to graduate, I had so much like missed days that I actually had to do community service. But I actually had an ag teacher because I did FFA. And he signed me off on all of it.
Right.
Shout out to Mr. Pace.
Thank you.
I love you. But yeah, no, like the scarcity culture, like I feel like a lot of my younger 20s dating people, I was so jealous because I felt like now that I have someone's attention and love, I need it. Like,
right.
Yeah.
You are needy. Like in the way I'm not.
Yeah.
And I feel that maybe because I experienced at some point the total opposite, even when my parents also, you know, didn't have their best, like, you know, they weren't successful as a marriage, but as parents, I cannot complain about my parents. Maybe at some point I complain about loving me too much, like loving me too much at a point that it was for me annoying because I consider they were like over controlling me
Yeah.
at the point that whenever I had opportunity to be free, I did everything,
And that's
and
total opposite of me. Like I would sneak out like in my bedroom window and I would be gone for 2 days and my mom sometimes wouldn't even notice
wow, no, like
because she was so overwhelmed with
that's
everything else.
something that would be
But honestly, I look
impossible.
back and I'm like, thank God nothing happened to me because I remember like I grew up in northern Utah. I remember one night it was like pouring rain and I didn't want to go back home.
Right.
And I had like ran to the movie theater as like I was like 12, 13 years old in these like tiny little flip-flops. Went and saw a movie by myself and then ran home. It was like 3-4 miles away in the pouring rain.
Right.
But like things like that where I just remember like my friend Cheyenne and I would go get shopping carts from Walmart and we'd steal the shopping carts.
Right.
And we would just like go walk around. It was Cache Valley, Logan, Utah. And like nothing really happened. I mean, maybe now it's like a bigger city, but when I was growing up, it wasn't. And we would just like push each other around in the cart and like go walk around for miles. And we were like just two 12-year-old girls. Like,
right.
And now I'm like, what the fuck?
And those little experiences, I don't know if you, the listener, the 0 listeners we have thought about that, about how those experiences that you had as a child like affected the way you interact with people, like not only parents,
100%.
like friends too, and what is defined as people being raised in starvation economy.
Yeah.
I don't know if any of this resonates with you. Maybe you're very possessive about the people, things, and even ideas that matter to you. You can feel like everything is limited, so you have to take what you can before it's gone.
Right.
So, yeah.
That leads us into our second, or never mind, not second.
So sorry, just one last thought about that the last section. 1, 2, 3. Because again, for me, it wasn't about scarcity; it was about freedom. Actually, I had this like not under supervision mode, like, and as soon as I felt I was released from it, I wanted to explore. And I like the idea of distinguishing between starvation economy and real world limits, where then the authors mention about like how time can be a real world limit and love is not. Like in neither sex, like doesn't matter what you learn from your parents, like there's not the limit. A mom can love one kid in the same way they can love nine of them. And with your partner could be the same. Like you can give, and you need to learn that to give more that you were thought you could. Right. So coming and passing to the last section of this chapter.
Openness can be the solution, not the problem.
Yep.
And I think this talks about where non-monogamy can actually strengthen primary relationships by reducing pressure.
Right.
Like in the same way that, like we've talked in like I think the first episode, that no one is capable of filling your cup up all the way.
Right.
Or, giving you everything you could ever possibly want in a relationship. Like there might be even minor facets of relationships that you want and your partner can't fulfill. And I think, for example, outside relationships might provide new emotional or physical outlets, which can enrich your connections with your partner, like your primary partner, if you have one. And I also feel like emotional growth comes from exploring what works for you, even if it's uncomfortable at first. And I feel like if you're even practicing monogamy right now, and if you decide to open your relationship or even be monogamish, it is not going to be comfortable at first. But I think it's really important to go and discover what works for you and your partner. But it takes time. Like I think learning good communication skills and also figuring out your boundaries of what you can and can't deal with, it's a process.
Yeah, and I feel that's something that some people don't realize how challenging can be. And I going to bring back again the idea of like, okay, maybe not therapy, but some therapeutical process, because something that you need to understand is like that having interaction with more people will mean like more emotions, and more emotions mean more emotions. You know, so if you have problems handling emotions, that's going to be complicated, you know. And again, we are not saying this like we are the masters, like we'll still have,
we have a lot to learn.
of problems dealing with our own emotions. But again, the idea is like through these emotions, you create your beliefs. We have our beliefs. It is that you need to create yours. Decide for yourself, like what you actually, you know, believe. And
yeah, it's like they talk in the book, growth, like exercise, is challenging but makes you stronger in the end.
Yeah, and I really like that idea, because how, like, again, and everyone who has ever like exercised in any way, you know that there are days that it's exercise
so
is
hard.
complicated. You can suffer. Exercise can you know be equal to sufferment for some people. And in general, even if you enjoy it, like you suffer, it's tough. This is going to be the same, but you're going to learn a lot about, and mainly about yourself.
Yeah.
But what's the nice thing, that after practicing a lot, like you become better at it, you become stronger. And it's uncomfortable, yes, but at least from my personal point of view, that you know, it making me stronger, and we encourage you to explore.
It's like non-monogamy isn't worth it. It's like emotional CrossFit. But the payoff, strength and freedom.
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's really funny.
So what do we conclude, my love?
Well, I think I also wanted to mention to Jesus that for me, love and intimacy with you has taught me to redefine love, not as possession or scarcity, but with you, it's as the state of abundance and openness. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, baby, for that too.
And I feel like our interactions have really helped me focus on what matters and has really given me space to foster love for myself and others. And I feel like this chapter specifically in the book really reminds me of the strength that comes from like being intentional and fostering love and trust in a relationship,
right?
And a lot of self-awareness.
Yeah, for me, this whole chapter is about the personal challenges. I love the person I became, challenging myself and being challenged by you too, knowing that I still have a lot of things to learn, to process from who I am right now, who I was, because again, I feel that your past can like chase you for.
Yeah, I feel like it helps you write your future.
Yeah. So yeah, I really feel like confident to being with someone that doesn't matter what I'm thinking, doesn't matter what I'm worried about. I can just, you know, say it and
we talk.
And we talk
communicate.
And communicate, and we redefine sex in the way we want.
And love and intimacy.
Sex, love, intimacy. And that's what we wish for you.
Yeah. In this chapter, you've seen there are many personal challenges. Choosing this lifestyle requires a strong ethical foundation and deep self-awareness, understanding how your actions affect others. You can hurt people, not always intentionally, but through learned behaviors you may never have questioned. It also means rethinking your concepts of sex, your motivations for it, and its connections for love. We've hoped you've planted a seed for reflection in whoever is listening. Again, we have our beliefs and you have yours. Explore, but do it so with ethics. We also want to remind you that this podcast is available in Spanish. And for US residents, we've also included a link below where you can purchase the Ethical Slut. We just don't get credit for it if you do it on Amazon MAX.
Yeah.
And remember, we are here every Wednesday. We we're posting a new podcast about 12 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. If you have any questions or comments, please let us know. We'd love to hear from you. And if anyone is out there listening,
Thank you. Thank you for being here, honestly.
Thank you. We should just like do a giveaway or something to our first subscriber.
to ourselves. If you're a subscriber,
you get a free OnlyFans subscription.
To who? Which do you have an OnlyFans?
We have an OnlyFans.
We have an OnlyFans.
You have an OnlyFans?
Okay, I don't know.
We'll figure something out.